I'm actually looking at my pipeline right here, and I may be a gentleman in the streets, but I'm a freak in the spreadsheets. I use I use an Excel spreadsheet to kind of keep track of everything. And I've been doing this for almost 15 years.
I like that shirt, man.
Thanks, man. I gotta bring something special every week because I know you come with the pressure every time. So
You're switching it up.
Is that a sweater with a collar?
it's not a sweater actually. So it's
Ooh,
got
oh,
a short
Look
sleeve,
at Delma. It's a short
Blinded.
sleeve.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't
Man,
see
yo,
it.
you can't just go flashing your guns around everywhere, man. You're gonna
I
get
know.
arrested.
You need a
jewelry.
permit for that.
You need a
You also
permit
get
for
that
the
jewelry set when you
pythons.
join Bay First. You get all complimentary.
That's sold separately.
Bracelet.
You gotta have the
Jewelry.
closings first.
It's in the back of the
I-
G-Wagon.
If you hit 50 million, it
Yeah,
comes in the mail.
I know that you guys just had your officers meeting, Chris. Did you have to tell Sterling to tuck his chains?
Yeah. I said, please leave the
No,
chains at home.
please. I walk around with my chest out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your co-host, Emily Detour, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts, Alan Peterson, Chris Hackney, Sterling Birdsong, and Ryan Kroge. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody to hit the subscribe button, the like button, share on all platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple. And if there's any topics you want to see discussed on the show, just shoot us a quick email at thebdoshow@gmail.com. BDOs. Have you ever had a borrower bring in like a brother-in-law to do their life insurance? Doesn't end well, does it? We've all been there. When you require life insurance on your SBA loan, it's critical that you bring in a company that specializes in getting these policies in place for the SBA loans. The last thing you want is for life insurance to be the holdup. We all know that's a rookie mistake. SBA Protection Quick Close Life Insurance is the fastest, easiest way to secure the insurance protection that your borrower needs for their SBA loan. Their process is simple, hassle-free, and only takes a few minutes of your borrower's time. No lengthy paperwork, no complicated forms. They even have programs that don't require labs or doctor records for approval. And best of all, you will have the collateral assignment back in less than 24 hours. It's a no-brainer. Go to sbaprotection.com for more information or email Adam Bergen at adam@sbaprotection.com. All right. So today, our topic that somebody wrote in about that they wanted to hear was how do we manage our pipelines? And to kick off that conversation, I wanted to invite Alan to start.
Great. Thanks, Emily. That's a really good question, right? Because you get started, you start doing all these things that we shared kind of in some of the earlier episodes about lead generation, bringing in opportunities, understanding, the credit appetite of your institution, making sure they're identifying the right deals, making sure that you know who your tribe is, who you're working with. Now, all this is happening. Deals are coming in and they're hitting the different stages in the life cycle of the loan. But now what, right? How do you manage that? And the way that I was kind of taught by, somebody that I look up to was right to left. So if you look at the pipeline as opportunities barely there, maybe a deal getting ready for underwriting, packaging, closing. If it's in a line, I start with closing, right? So I'll review every deal in the morning after I've done my prospecting exercises, and I'll identify, do I need to touch anything here? Is this moving the right way? Are there any issues or updates? And I'll just kind of do it that way. Personally, I like to start with closing. It's the closest to the dollar opportunity. We're almost there. And then work through to the left, finally with new opportunities where I'm going to make sure the cash flow makes sense and that the rest of the deal certainly has legs. That's just the way I do it. I mean, Ryan, how do you do it?
I'm actually looking at my pipeline right here, and I may be a gentleman in the streets, but I'm a freak in the spreadsheets. I use I use an Excel spreadsheet to kind of keep track of everything. And I've been doing this for almost 15 years, ever since I was able to kind of master Excel spreadsheet. And I've got it from the top down, from opportunities to those that have signed a term sheet, a pre-qualification for me, to underwriting, closing. And then I've got tabs underneath from each year of production going all the way back to 2012 from every loan that I've closed since then. So I've got a rolling production for the last 12 years on this one spreadsheet that I've carried over my career. And that's
What's
just
the
kind
street
of
value of that, man? We could sell that on the
man
open market.
there's a lot of loans closed in this spreadsheet in this whole entire
Impressive.
workbook, but I've got it all kind of calculated. And of course, as a BDO, once it hits closing, I've got a incentive calculator to the right that lets me kind of follow where my money is for the year. But it tracks everything from, it also tracks everything from the time I first initially talked to the individual to the last time I spoke to the individual, submitted to underwriting, approved, committed, and closed. So it kind of gives me a time frame. Man, this took 2 months to close. Wow, this took less than 30 days to close. And I kind of get a chance to look and see what type of transactions were they, how simple were they, how complex, how many moving parts. And just by having this visually in front of me on one screen all day, it gives me a better gauge to tell potential clients, well, look, you've got 4 different entities, you're buying several different assets. It's a very complicated deal. I know this is going to take a little bit longer than normal. I can estimate it about this many weeks out. That gives me a more accurate gauge to kind of set expectations up front. From an email perspective, I do the same thing similar to this, working from the top down. I've got different email folders that I write rules with those folders to send certain emails to certain inboxes. So if it's somebody that is internal, I've got an internal closing email inbox that I get to monitor for all my loans and closing. I like to be copied on everything. And because I like to be copied on everything, I get to see who's moving the needle and who's not. If I'm getting an email from my closer twice a week, but I'm seeing nothing reciprocal, I'm picking up the phone. I'm giving a call and finding, hey, have you been getting my closer's emails? Have you been seeing the checklist? Same thing with underwriting. If I don't see anything from my underwriter in a while, I'm calling them up, say, hey, do you need anything else? Did I answer all your questions adequately? Are you backlogged? Is there anything I can help to kind of move things forward? And I have all my emails organized in that fashion, and then I get to dump them into a closing funnel.
Well, that just really goes to show that there's really a million ways to potentially get this done, right? Because I don't know if I could be further away from Ryan's approach to the way that he manages his pipeline and the way that he stays organized, right? But at the end of the day, we all are kind of getting similar results, right? So I'm very fluid. I'm like the water. I just kind of let the needs and the urgency of the deals in my pipeline kind of dictate where I spend a majority of my time. One thing that I do tend to do fairly frequently is I do have the routine of at least having a Monday morning meeting with Austin, who's my associate lender. So essentially, I will just talk to him about deals that are in the pipeline, where we are with certain term sheets that need to go out that week, where we are on getting term sheets signed, where we are on deals that are in underwriting, and then obviously where we are on deals that are in closing. Beyond that, I kind of at that point just kind of figure it out on the fly a little bit. I kind of have an idea in my brain of what I want to accomplish for that week, and then I plot a path in my brain on how to get there, and I make sure that. Alan says that he kind of works from right to left. I kind of work from left to right. I'm all about getting the new term sheets out as soon as possible. I want to get new money off the street ASAP. Because once I feel like I get it off the street and I can get it into my process, then a lot of the times the process can do some of the work for you and allow you to then continue to go out and just source new deals. So, I always kind of am cognizant of which deals are going to need more handholding, which are not going to need more handholding. Then, because I kind of keep myself freed up, I'm able to say, hey, this deal in particular is going to need a little bit more work. I can focus on that one. While other deals, maybe the process can do a lot more of the heavy lifting there. That's what allows me to, be able to manage, 20 or 30 different units or transactions at any given time. Chris, how do you handle it?
Yeah, for me, like management perspective, I look left to right. It's the first thing I do every morning, see who's turning over term sheets quickly, which deals are sitting in underwriting longer than others. So, as a BDO, whether you're starting out or you're a top producer, your sales manager, your division president, they're looking too, which is why you have to be on top of your pipeline. Because if I come to you and say, John Smith, you sent this term sheet 10 days ago. Where's it at? Why isn't it there? And you're like, I called the broker 5 days ago. You just look silly. And you like, it looks crazy, and I feel less confident in you as a BDO if you don't even know why your deal has lingered in a certain stage and you can't give an answer. So you as a BDO should definitely be managing your pipeline daily, because if you're asked by management why things aren't moving, you need to be able to provide a response. So I typically work left to right because I want to forecast what's coming down for the quarter and the month. So I'm more concerned about new deals coming on. And if you send a term sheet out, the expectation it comes back in 3 days or less. If it's outside of that, then there's a conversation I'll have with you. And then when it hits underwriting, we have an SLA in underwriting as well. And we know what that is. And in closing, we have weekly closing calls. I'm sure we all do that as well. So, but the expectation is outside of that team closing pipeline meeting, you should be managing that with your closer, whether you're in pods or you work with different closers in your shop. You should be talking to them, if not once, twice per week on your particular deal to see where it's at. So again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think, whatever suits you, and, as Sterling said, with the flow, right? And, provides the least amount of stress and keeps you most informed, that's what you should do. There's no secret sauce. The one key is you must know where all of your deals lie at all times. You cannot be uninformed about a deal at any given time as a BDO.
So it sounds like, sorry. So it sounds like making sure nothing slips through the cracks is a huge part of the pipeline process. Sterling, how do you avoid that? How do you avoid letting things slip through the cracks?
So I would say when it comes to avoiding things slipping through the cracks, just remember that the pipeline is your friend. If you put your deals on the pipeline, it's very hard to forget about them because someone like Chris will remind you, right? You're going to get to a Thursday meeting, and if it's on pipeline, it's going to get spoken about. So I would say making sure that you use the tools that are there for you to use. If you're a BDO and you have some type of a CRM, for us, that's HubSpot. I make sure that I utilize HubSpot. I love the way that it looks because it literally has it from left to right. Here are your different silos. You can do it by my particular deals, and I can see exactly what I have out in term sheets, exactly what I have in underwriting. So it's very easy for me to stay organized that way. And it's easy to say, hey, that deal's been sitting for a while. Why is it sitting? Let's figure out how we can get that moved into the next step of the process. But, when it comes to Ryan's Excel spreadsheet, or when it comes to using a CRM, you do have to realize that the CRM is really only as good as you are at inputting data into it. So you just want to make sure that you actually are utilizing it to the best of its abilities. I even sometimes will put little tickler dates into the CRM to make sure to remind myself to reach out to certain people. And then also one thing that I just do, and this is not really, any type of rocket science, I use a search function in my Outlook, right? So every single time a checklist goes out to a potential prospect, we make sure that we use basically the same tag. It's SBA checklist for so-and-so, right? And so if I go into my sent folder and I type in SBA checklist, all the SBA checklists are going to pop up in chronological order, right? So then you can easily go back and say, never heard from this guy, never heard from that girl, never heard from this person. And you can basically then just follow up, just respond to your email and just say, hey, how are things going, Mary? I haven't heard from you. Just want to make sure you didn't have any questions in regards to the loan application. And then just, follow up with them like that. And that's an easy way to make sure that things don't slip through the cracks.
And Sterling, you touched on our CRM system. I think it's important, even if your bank is not using a CRM or a particular CRM, that you have one as your own BDO. Even before our bank adopted HubSpot, I was using it myself, and I got the bank to adopt it as a whole because what it does, it automates a lot of that process of, hey, I didn't follow up with Susie Smith. I sent this term sheet out. It's been 3 days, and it can send you a reminder in your inbox. Susie Smith, you issued this term sheet 3 days ago. Reminder, task for today is to call Susie Smith, right? Without even having to check your pipeline, you can live in your inbox or on your phone and get those automated notifications on what you need to do every day to move your pipeline from left to right as well. So there is value in finding a good CRM system. I'm not going to plug either one or anyone in particular, but the Excel spreadsheets are good, but there's some automation that comes from having a CRM that can remind you as well and give you some more time back in your day.
Yeah, CRM systems are good. I'm just way too old school for that. I've gotten very comfortable with this Excel spreadsheets and Microsoft Outlook. I like to use the flag feature a lot in emails that I send out every time that I touch a file or get a call. I always follow up every call with an email, mainly for two reasons. For number one, that I can put a flag on there and when to follow up again. But number two, it takes everything that I put and everything that I said on the phone, everything that I explained back into writing to summarize it so that there's something crisp and concrete that's communicated effectively to everybody who needs to be. And I save that in my inbox, flag it so I can follow up with any additional questions later.
On the new deals, when do you know, like, hey, this deal isn't moving forward? And Alan, you touched on prospecting and you do your prospecting call. So like, let's say it's a term sheet that just was sent out, and how many calls do you give and you say this deal isn't moving forward? Or what does that look like in managing that step?
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally when I am working with a potential borrower or a referral partner, I honestly feel that I have a really good grasp if they're going to move forward with me or not on that call. I might be different because I go right to left, but I'm also different in that I'm not waiting around for term sheets. That's not really something that I have any issue with. They generally just sort of come back. I won't do a whole lot of prodding with that either. I like to put it out and then maybe I'll check in with the broker. Hey, do you think this one has got legs, or, are they still shopping? Do they think they want to move forward? Usually one email, and I do that 48 hours after, but after that, I'm on to the next one. I think it's important too, to keep in mind, I'm talking about analyzing the pipeline. I do this before the bell. You know what I mean? Like it's not 10 a.m. and I'm trying to figure out where my life is. I do this early in the morning, and it really just helps me kind of plan for the day. That's kind of, the benefit of it for me is it gives me a little bit of structure. Like I work from home. I might be wearing shorts right now. My whole family might be in the next room because I'm having a barbecue at 6 p.m. I invited you guys. These are all,
we'll be there.
This is all the reality. Yeah. Well, hey, I know you're going to meat market maybe after that, but I know where you're up to, Chris, but if we get a plan in place for the day, I can be way more effective. And for me, it kind of keeps me in check. You know what I mean? Getting my order of operations and, all right, what do I have to touch today? Do I have to touch this? Do I not? Spreads. All right, we got cash flow. Let me look at the resume and the PFS, term sheet out, right? But it all depends on, how everybody else is comfortable doing it. But I would just advise doing it early in the day, because once that email starts, it doesn't stop.
Right. I'm unfortunately going to show kind of how long I've been in this industry.
Before email?
Whoa,
exactly.
What is that? Paper?
That's a yellow dog, baby. I've got a whole drawer full of these that are dated for each day. I put my to-do list. I just flipped it over. It's nice and clean because I'm going to start again tomorrow. I put all my to-do lists in order of what's important, who I've got to call first, who I've got to call second, prospecting, closing, underwriting. If I've got a fire I got to put out, it all gets put from here down to here first. And then that's how I kind of move through my day and jump back and forth. And I've got a whole drawer full of used ones that I keep for about 3 months. I know it's weird that I keep for about 3 months before I shred them, just in case I've got to go back and revisit phone numbers, notes, things like that. I know it's kind of archaic, Jurassic, if you will, but to Sterling's point, I started this back before email was really a big thing, and I just got used to writing things down and still love to do it.
You're aging like wine, Ryan, because there's no way, man. You look fantastic.
Fine wine.
Just before email days.
Paper, yeah.
Once you get
paper is wild. The note.
Once you get the fine wine, you don't
man.
Want the $3 stuff, man.
He sent his first one on a pigeon.
It works.
You got to respect that.
What about like weekly recaps to your guys' partners, internal, external? Like, how do you set up meetings and sort of go over your pipeline? Like, how do you approach that, Chris?
Not as active, I'll be honest. So it's usually me checking in with the associate lender that I work with, Hannah Layton, who does a phenomenal job. And I will
How does she set up her meetings is the question. We got to get Hannah on here.
It's usually chaotic, and I yell and I say, where's this still? Why is it still not moving? And somehow she organizes that into a structured set of calls during the week. So I don't know her secret sauce. But when I was actively kind of in it and lending, if I saw a deal was moving slower than it should be, then I would set up a recurring weekly call. In fact, I have a large USDA loan that I'm working on now, and it was moving so dang slow. I'm like, Hannah, we're doing a call like once a week, twice a week, and you set up a standing meeting and you check in with those. If it's like moving normal pace, then I don't often have to like check in on it too much. It might be good to just do a recap with your external referral. Here's where we're at. Real quick check in via email. I don't think it's necessary to like call and update. You can just give them a quick blurb. But if the deal is not moving according to your pace, I recommend setting up a recurring weekly call with all parties to drive that forward through each milestone, whether that's in, term sheet out, whether that's in underwriting, closing, whatever that stage is. If it's slow and you feel like, hey, this isn't going the way it needs to go, set up a recurring call with all parties, and that way everyone's informed, and people will have to be held accountable that way, because every week you're going to say, well, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, whether that's the borrower, referral partner, your internal partners as well. And people don't like to be put on the spot, I find, week after week.
What about you, Alan? Sounds like Chris doesn't set up calls and someone else does it for him. So do you?
To live the life of Chris.
The president.
I haven't used a phone since 2000. I'm just kidding.
He's got a flip phone, everybody. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
If I didn't know
Motorola Razor.
Dialing, that's
T9 texting.
He's playing Snake 2 on his phone. But
dialing people.
But no, I mean, listen,
Sweeper.
for me, so I connect with Amanda, and Ryan and I actually both get to work with her, and she's phenomenal, right? So I personally check in with her on Mondays and usually on Fridays, right? But I'm lucky because throughout the week, she'll give me an active line of, yo, this is everything that we're working on, or maybe ask me a question. Hey, are we still waiting on that? I know that you would ask them for additional color on the business plan. You didn't think it was a very good business plan. They should have went to rapid business plans, but they didn't. Those kind of things, is the kind of updates that I get midweek. So I don't know, like, I'm lucky, man. I get constant contact with my tribe, so to speak. Right. Do you do a dedicated day with that? Or are you similar in that you kind of get active updates?
I get active updates. Amanda at the end of every week will give me kind of like a brief pipeline of exactly what she's done, what she went through in each stage, gives me a nice snapshot before I start the weekend, so I know how the week has ended and how successful we've been. And then during the week, obviously, she gives us some live feedback, which is phenomenal, with different people within our tribe and underwriting, packaging, closing. I will usually call them periodically through the week and just ask for a brief update. Sometimes, like this week, and next week, which are pretty hectic for our closers, I'll just text. And a lot of our closers just love to text because they're on the phone all day. They're working on files all day. And sometimes it's just, hey, did you get what you need from so-and-so? And they'll respond, yes, but I don't think they understand this. I was like, don't worry, I got you covered. I'll jump on the phone and get it all clear for them. So depending on whatever your medium of communication is, as long as you're constantly in contact, I think is the important thing, just like Al said.
Yeah, I personally have never really gone for the formally scheduled call thing. I think that, the only time I really will implement that is when we have an extreme deadline to hit. Like, for example, we had a deal last year that we knew had to be closed in a little over a month, and we were able to get it done in 36 days from start to finish. 36 days, 36 nights, man. And, when with that particular deal, what we did that allowed us to hit that deadline was we had essentially an all parties call every single week. So at least once a week, we would all get on there. And I'm talking about even the attorney would be on there. The closer would be on there. Sometimes the underwriter would be on there. I would be on there. The borrower would certainly be on there. Sometimes insurance people would be on there. It would be everybody. It was kind of just a standing call, and whoever wanted to join or was invited to join would just hop on there, and we would just hash things out. And so it does work. That was an extreme circumstance where I think we were all trying to hit a very, very tight deadline. I'm not saying that necessarily works for every deal, but it certainly worked in that instance, and it's something that I have implemented on several deals, but usually when it gets to the closing process.
That was 36
I imagine
days
you and
from
Austin,
first phone
you and
call to
Austin
close,
talk
right?
daily, right? Yeah, 36. Bay First is closing deals in 15 days.
That's just
Now,
for the record.
what do we got? Just for the record. Now, you gotta be talking to Austin every day though, Sterling,
Every day,
right? I mean,
every
you
day.
guys are at the hip. That's why you don't,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's a
for
different,
sure.
it's kind of a different structure. I got to imagine, you know?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
Alan,
I talk to Austin at least 3 or 4 times a day. It's like just ongoing, you know.
So do I, and I don't even work with him. I talk to him.
I
about
know,
3 times a
honestly, honestly, he talks to you more than I do these days. he's your associate in life.
day.
But yeah, no, I make sure to keep an open line of communication with Austin all day. You know, he asks me a ton of questions. I just correspond with him on deals and strategy all the time. For, hey, here's how I think we need to approach this deal. Here's who we need to speak to about this particular deal. You know, we kind of in a way move in tandem as one unit, and that's kind of just what works for us.
Yeah.
What
It's beautiful to
about
watch. Beautiful to watch.
I almost did the Shador Sanders. You almost talked me into it just by saying beautiful watch, but I realize this is a BDO podcast and we're not a record label, so we should probably relax.
Yeah, some of our
That's our other podcast.
Yeah.
Let's save it for the Babe Boys
We got
podcast.
Chief Credit Officer watches this now, Sterling. We're getting an audience now. Be careful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
what about the stage of the pipeline? Which part of that do you think requires the most attention? Let's go with Ryan.
It's going to be the prospect pipeline. That always needs the most attention. When you're prospecting somebody, when you have somebody getting up to at the term sheet or before underwriting, it's going to need the most attention because they're asking the most questions. You're figuring out a structure. You're getting to know their business. You're getting to know the key decision makers within their business. And you're really trying to formulate that relationship with those individuals, with the borrowers, or the sellers in some circumstances. So that's going to take the majority. And besides, as a BDO, we're going to own the deal all the way through to closing and even after closing. But creating that relationship and getting that rapport is all going to take place right up front in the prospecting and in the application stage before you get into underwriter. And then once your tribe starts taking over, your involvement should be getting less and less and less all the way up to the closing. And unless you're like me, I side up to the closing table and say, hey guys, I'm glad my tribe got you here. Let's have some fun.
I think the biggest part that I always focus on is getting my term sheets that are out there in the world signed. So if I issue a term sheet, I want that to get signed immediately. And if it's not getting signed, then I want to know why it's not getting signed. What's going on? Are you shopping me? Are you getting cold feet? You know, what is the reason why? You know, we talked about this. At this point, there shouldn't really be a surprise by the time I issue the term sheet. We've discussed essentially what the deal is going to be. So, you know, if I present what we discussed, you know, I would like to get that signed and I would like to get you into the process as soon as possible. Because for us, that's where the process really starts. Everything before you sign the term sheets really kind of just fluff. You know, it's foreplay at that point. And so we just need to go ahead and get you signed up, get you into the process, and we can go ahead and get this process really started and get to moving you from, you know, underwriting into closing eventually. So that's always where I focus most of my time.
Probably back to Gandhi there for a minute, Sterling, you know, and it's like we used to say, right? Pipe don't pay.
Pipe don't pay, baby.
Pipe
you know,
don't pay.
Look, but if you don't have a pipe, you're never going to get paid. So don't get confused on that either.
Right.
Never. Don't get that messed up.
You got to get that pipe grown in order for it to be able to close, man.
You don't want to be on pipeline when I'm asking, well, where are your deals? That's
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the actual quote.
Yeah, you don't want to be a lender with no
Still work
pipe. Trust me. Nobody
I asked
wants
the guy
that.
one time, hey, do you still work here? You have nothing on your... I'm just checking in.
Exactly. And that's how we're all gauged, is by the size of our pipe.
Ooh.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we going to have a pipe measuring contest before this is all said and done?
I'm pretty sure we've already gotten to that point.
Sterling, you hit an interesting subject. So you said term sheet was a big benchmark for you, I guess. So what other benchmarks can we place in the terms of your pipe? Like what things do you need to focus on hitting throughout the process? Appraisals, approval numbers, et cetera? Like what do you find to be a bigger benchmark of a?
Yeah. So first benchmark, like I said, is obviously signed term sheets. The next big benchmark is going to be approval. Approval is, the next real, hey, we made it. And that's where you kind of have I wouldn't say a celebration, but maybe a mini congratulations to your customer. We celebrate closings, not approvals, as Alan will let you know, but you can still at least let people know, hey, congratulations, you got your SBA loan approved. And so at this point, we're essentially in the home run or the home stretch now. And then the last thing is obviously going to be your actual closing, and that's when the process really, really ends. So for me, it's a 3-step thing. It's, getting a signed term sheet, getting an approval, and then ultimately getting a closing.
That you pretty much nailed it, Sterling. Those are the 3 key benchmarks to really be focusing and driving your pipeline to. It's that term sheet, commitment letter, and that closing, baby. I like it.
What about teasing into the next steps of the pipeline, right? Like, when are you giving questions out that every underwriter is going to ask on every single deal before the underwriter gets the deal? Are you doing, pre-close checklists when you're in credit? It feels good because your box. Are you communicating the what's next? Because we all want to be here for what's next. And we definitely want to make sure that we can manage the expectations with, simple documents. We know that every single SBA loan requires X, Y, and Z. How proactive are you guys in gathering that stuff up front?
I can answer this. I actually spoke about this down when we were in Miami at the Art of SBA BDO retreat. I have a Microsoft Word. I love Microsoft. I just got to say, Bill Gates made some really good stuff. I have a Microsoft Word document that I've been collecting probably over the last 10 to 15 years of my career with just about every specific question that most underwriters ask about every deal, regardless of industry, just everything that I know they're going to want to ask right up front. And I put it in a questionnaire form and I send it to the borrower, to the customer before underwriting and let them fill it out in their own words. When I get it back, I read through it. If I have any questions or want them to elaborate more, I'll just add to it as I talk to them over the phone. But I feel that when the underwriters pick up my file and they see that Word doc, I know several of my underwriters look for that Word doc because it has the very specific questions that they ask on every single deal and want to see in every single deal, and they go through it. Once it gets out of once it gets into underwriting though, and the underwriters are looking at it, Amanda, Alan, my assistant, starts putting together a pre-closing checklist for us and gets that out the door because she already knows what's going to be required on every single closing. And so she'll put that together. She'll send it to Al or I. We'll review it, add something, give a thumbs up, ship it out the door so that while it's in underwriting, what we're giving the customer experience is that nothing's standing still. There's no dead space. They're constantly moving. They're constantly submitting information. We're constantly replying to their information. And so it's a continuously moving and organic process and seamless to the customer to where they're not sitting on their hands for 1, 2, sometimes even 3 weeks, wondering what's going on with their loan. It's constant communication and constant touching, which always gives the appearance of quality and that somebody's constantly giving them attention and working on their transaction.
And that's key to managing a pipeline. If you give them like a preview of what's next, as Alan said, hey, the underwriter is going to ask about your revenue dip in 2022 or this customer concentration. Let's go ahead and get that answered. I used to put like a little Word doc with 4 or 5 key questions that I know the underwriter would ask and have that in the file so that way they can get to it quickly. And also like, hey, you need a survey on this. Have we ordered a survey? Can you do that prior to underwriting so that you can close faster? And the borrower is going to feel engaged and motivated too. They're like, wow, this guy knows what's coming in this stage and what's next. And he's giving me like a leg up on the next stage too. So I'm a little bit further ahead when I get to that stage too. So it keeps them engaged. Shirley, what were we going to say?
No, I was going to say, one of the key things you've probably heard, since I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has watched every single episode up until now, we never want to surprise customers, right? I always like to be upfront, and especially when it comes to the underwriting side of things, I like to tell customers what's wrong with their deal on the front end. So if I know that there's things that the underwriter is going to ask about, I'm going to tell you that usually on our first conversation on our initial call, because I'm asking those prying questions because my mind is always just really thinking about how can I get your deal approved and closed, right? From the very first conversation that we have, my questions are very pointed and they're, what are the pain points of this particular transaction so that I can go ahead and address those now so that we can save time. Because I don't want to have to restructure your deal when it's already in underwriting. And by then it's already got the stink on it because the underwriter doesn't like the loan because you didn't structure it right in the first place. Because we didn't know that you didn't have enough liquidity or we didn't know that you didn't have enough collateral for this to make sense. Now I want to have those conversations immediately so I can say, hey, you only have 20 grand. You might want to find a guarantor, or you might want to go get a gift from somebody else. So having those early discussions will allow you to give people some tips before they get into that next stage of the process to make sure that, things run a little bit more smoothly for you. And then also in the closing process, that's a huge thing as well. I try and get as soon as I have a good feeling that, a deal is going to get approved. And as soon as the term sheet goes out there, or a commitment letter goes out there, then I would like to get my closer already working on that checklist so that as soon as we get the signed commitment letter back, boom, checklist is ready to go. It's out there. Here's an introduction to my closer. So you know her. Her name is Christina Kilty. She's great. And then you guys are kind of off to the races from there. So yeah, sometimes kind of preloading and kind of preparing people, I think it makes for a smoother, more cohesive process for both you and for the customer.
What a great topic today, you guys. Honestly, it kind of goes back to our last episode, which was the tribe. You are the most important person in your tribe. You keep things going, you keep it flowing. And you got constant eyes on everything you need to get done so that your team is successful globally, which is amazing. So thank you guys. Thanks for weighing in on this topic. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, the like button, share with everybody, and keep submitting those topics. Topics like this is what keeps us going and keeps the show interesting. Any topics you have, submit them to the BDO Show at gmail.com. Again, thank you for being with us. Until next time.